Now we're on to our final session of the day, the future of pre-sales, a discussion with industry leaders. So let's welcome back Chris Mabry, VP Solutions and Partnerships here at Reprise. Hey, Chris. And now we have our panelists, Chris Friday, Head of Worldwide Solution Consulting at Outreach. We have Terrence Felton, VP of Solutions Consulting at Cisco, and Song Park, CCO, Global Head of Customer Success and Solutions Engineering at 𝐻ronosphere. Welcome you all, and Chris, over to you.
So it may not be 1985, and I may not be driving a DeLorean, but we're going to take it to the future because we're going to talk about the future of this industry with these three top leaders in the space. What do I have to offer in this conversation? Very little, so I'm going to let them do most of the talking. But I appreciate this event altogether. It's been amazing. The demo fails, I was sitting here sweating, listening to those stories. All of us have been through it. I'm just going to go off and ask, we're going to start with what's changed. We're going to move into where things are going. So over the past 2 to 3 years, a lot of us here have understood, or we've been in the industry, we've seen the change. I want to take it from the three of you. And what are some of the most dramatic ways you've seen this function and solutions change within the past 2 to 3 years? And Chris, with a K, I'm going to start with you.
I've seen a lot. I've been doing pre-sales for almost 2 decades. And I think one of the biggest things that I've seen come about in the last 2 to 3 years is moving our team up into the funnel, into the more qualification stages. This has been very important because I believe the buyers have become much more savvy in the tactics that they're using to research, to get information. So they're asking a lot of really in-depth questions early on that your AEs may not be able to be prepared for. So I've actually started to move my team up in the qualification process to be there on those front lines, some of those qualification calls, especially to start building champions and be able to find the metrics in pain.
Well said. Over to you, Song.
Yeah, very similar kind of tenure. So I've been in go-to-market for the better part of 2 decades. I know I don't look the part. Thank you very much. But I think for us, it really is around, I think, SEs and pre-sales becoming, I like to think, captains of our industry, but in reality, co-captains. We still have to kind of share the seat, especially around what Chris said, identifying the pain, making sure things are qualified, making sure we drive great discovery, but also just helping to make sure we have the right ICP and the right customers we're going after. And ultimately framing up like the business case, making sure that we're doing everything, I think, +1 than everyone else typically on the account team. So I see more companies doing that versus, thinking about SEs and pre-sales just as like, oh, hey, here's a technical resource to come and do the demo. Right. So like our role and our expansion into kind of more the business and tying the business to the technical pains and requirements are becoming more paramount. And I think this is where, the next, hopefully the future of pre-sales turns us into, I think more the captains.
Terrence, what's your thought? I love the idea of becoming a captain, by the way. I'm imagining a captain's hat.
No, yeah, I agree with all of that. It's been a shift. I mean, it's been longer, but you've seen it a lot more lately in the last 2 to 3 years. I would say more use case focused storytelling as far as an SEM. As we're evolving our roles, it's not just a technical resource anymore, but it's now we're getting in and we're understanding, their pain points. We're looking to solve those pain points. No longer just focus on the features and the widgets and the buttons, but uncovering the pain, telling the story behind it. That's how we're getting, into partnership with our customers more and focusing more on that specific use case and just coming in. Here's that story. If you have something, just to leave behind and for you to remember, it is this use case, not all the other buttons, not all the UI, not how it goes back to here, but how we solve that specific pain point.
Terrence, you used a really good word, partnership. And I feel that some of the things that I consistently hear from organizations from pre-sales is that a lot of pre-sales individual contributors don't feel that they have a seat at the table in that strategy. And they're used, as you said, more of those demo resources. And to Song's point, moving us up into the pre-sales, the qualification stages, I really think that it earns us a seat at the table. So we're not just doing those feature function demos, and we're actually providing that strategic lens. If we start to move up in the beginning, we can also call out the AEs when we feel that their qualification is not quite up to par. So it gives us a really good seat at the revenue table as well as at the customer's table.
No,
Yeah,
100%,
well
Chris.
said.
I agree. Yeah.
I propose this as like, what shift have we seen in the last 2 to 3 years? But really what I'm kind of hearing is we've adjusted to the buyer's expectations over the past 2 to 3 years, and we've met them where they're at. And that's what's really cool, is you can see the evolution of us adjusting to the market. The three of you run teams at large organizations. They're very complex sets of technologies. How are you tactically meeting them there? Like, what are some of the things that you've done to make the shift to meet the buyers where they are now? And I'll start with you, Terrence.
Yeah, with that, I mean, this is piggybacking off of, our conversation just before this, though, is getting into those use case demos. Like you said, our customers are changing. What they're looking for is changing. Their attention is changing. They're doing a lot of resource and research beforehand. So how do we gain their attention? So something that teams have been doing, for some time now is utilizing more vignette demos, and it's vertical based, is use case based. So those small snippets, maybe it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but it's right on a topic, right on a use case. And doing that in a number of ways. We're doing that for demand generation. We're also doing that as leave behind. So leave it as a video for you, just like, hey, showcase this one solution. This is what's solving that pain point. And it's arming our AEs to be able to be in rooms where we're not, but it's also arming our champions with the customer where they can be in rooms where we're not. And now they're showcasing that demo or that vignette use case demo to the powers that be and the decision makers. So that's something we're doing to get ahead of things, get that quick attention happening, but also leaving good resources behind.
I love that piece, Terrence, because if you're a part of a medic or a med pick shop, you'll hear the word champion, champion, champion every single time. And how do you build those champions really at the beginning is you have to put deposits in their bank. So you can withdraw them later on to, say like, I need to get access to the economic buyer, or can you help, position our product in XYZ other place in the organization? And those vignettes and leave behinds, those are your deposits. So that's exactly what you want to start to think about, how to leave those behind to build that champion, and even maybe sometimes building the coaches, but you really want to focus in on those champions. I feel like that's a big shift that I've been seeing, that we're trying to meet the buyer and their expectations and behavior as well.
Hey, the only thing I would add to that, like what Terrence and Chris say are extremely powerful. Like the only thing that I think about with the teams is also the mindset shift, because I think buyers today and customers in general don't really fit into like the sales process where, hey, we have to go follow these steps and it's a very linear, first touch all the way through kind of purchase. So I think being creative about how we can leverage collateral, how we can leverage content, how we can leverage, to Chris's point, those little deposits, whether it's an engagement, passing along some info, sharing that demo vignette to Terrence's point, like those are all great and powerful. But I think it, again, tries to elevate the pre-sales professional into a very consultative advisor kind of partner by being their domain expert, have the breadth and depth to go and, understand the customer's pain, echo those things back, but then again, provide that like very, hopefully, the right moment in time information and engagement to kind of elevate that status. So I try and tell the teams to kind of elevate that mindset into how they think about themselves, because it's very easy to become that tool in a toolkit. Hey, I'm just going to go do this thing. Here's my swim lane. But again, like to my theme around captains, like you have to be able to go and understand like the entire spectrum of things that the AE knows, right? The account exec knows, as well as everyone else that's on the account team.
So that's a great point, not fitting your customers into your buying process. I used to be so stalwart and not showing product until we did our proper discovery. And I relented on that a few years ago, because it's prohibitive to the customer, because they'll pass on by you really quickly because we don't believe that you have a product. So, even showing product before discovery, even your qualification, to Terrence's point earlier on about those leave behind, those little vignettes, those are perfect to just start to create off the shelf for that very, for that very purpose.
There's a term that one of our customers at Reprise uses, and they call it the Netflix of demos, which I love that
Tell me
aspect.
more.
It visually gives you that idea of like scrolling through the demo list.
Yeah.
And Terrence, to your point, I've heard two terms I really want to steal from you guys, and I hope the whole audience is picking up on these, like the vignette process, the captain. These are two terms I want to use, because you can go to a sales team and say, did you share the vignette? Or here's your vignette library. And now it has a title. It has a thing, right? It's like now you can build a book of them. And Song, how you're talking about being a captain, it's like that's changing the persona and the perception of your solution engineer. Where do you think people are wasting time? So now, if we're doing more of that, there's other things that've got to go, right? So where do you think we're wasting time today that's like maybe no longer moving the needle? I've been in the game a long time, and so maybe some of my old tricks just don't work anymore.
I think the biggest time waster is preparing a demo for every potential question. SEs really need to do a better job at objection handling and not having to show the answer in product. If you have a script, stick to it as best as possible. When you stray from that, there's a really good term, the blind leading the blind. If it's not part of your demo, probe the customer's question, understand it, take a note and get back to them. I firmly tell my team, it's okay not to have every answer or know every answer during a meeting.
That's a hot take, Chris. I love it.
Yeah, I'll get back to demos as well too. One of them that I see as a big time waster, and we've all been here before, is just unqualified last minute demos. And this is where we got no knowledge of the customer, and I need this tomorrow. So they want to see that cool AI thing. Like what are they solving? I don't know. It's like it's a cool tool. We could show them. And if we're going off of demos and just showing cool, and we don't know what we're answering to, it's a huge waste of time. So now we're creating these Harbor Cruise demos, and then we get there and we find out it's a 3-user deal, and it just kills the SE's time. So that's a big one I think we all been through before, but that's a big time waster on my team right now.
I tell my team, you don't get paid to do demos, you get paid to close.
Exactly.
Spicy.
Simple.
Song, what's your take? What do you
I would
see as
just
being a time waster?
piggyback on both. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely I always call it reactive pre-sales, right? I think it's all the things that were mentioned, but it's more the negative consequence around, well, you don't get to actually prepare and do your best jobs. And it also kind of limits or maybe increases kind of the cognitive load, like, hey, I have to go now worry about this stupid thing that just kind of landed on my lap. Again, I'm just going to say captain again, like, hey, you should be a captain here and like push back, or have your manager push back, or have someone like give you the air cover, because if you're not going to bring your best foot forward and it doesn't smell right. And how many times have we dropped just into meetings where it's like, hey, I've got this great opportunity, and then 5 minutes in it's like, wow, this is such a time waste. Like those things are, I think, not conducive to like productive and efficient teams. So I think just being very smart about knowing when to push back is also critical for like every pre-sales professional to feel empowered to say that and do that.
Yeah, love that. So I love the comment, Jen. Hot take. This is going to be maybe one of my favorite quotes of the day. So there is, a lot of us are trying to solve workflow problems using AI and trying to kind of like shortcut or benefit our solutions teams to keep them on meetings that matter. Terrence, you're having to deal with these unqualified deals right now, and a lot of us are trying to look at tooling to solve those problems. There is a gap, and I'm noticing this in the market in general. There's a gap between our ambitions and what we're actually doing today. And there's a gap between what we think is possible with where AI is going and what we are implementing. So what do you think on your teams? What do you think the biggest gap is? And what's your plan to like get your team to that next stage?
I can start off. The biggest gap that we're seeing on my team, and I think we're all in right now, is that we're all in a race for AI understanding. As vendors, as customers, partners, we're all in that race, and we're doing this in order to lead into AI guidance. And that's the biggest gap that we're seeing on my team is this where where do we get there? How do we get there as far as being an AI guide for our customers? You know, not just a vendor showing them things, but they're looking for guidance. We're looking for, you know, to all get on the understanding. So what we're doing on a team right now is to solve for that gap is this. We're just embedding AI in everything that we do is our role. Well, where it fits. So in order to that, we're doing that to, you know, have it as second nature in a way of utilizing AI and having that within our lives and our roles. So we're doing that to write RFPs. We're doing that to craft demand generation emails, answer product questions, but also just the backbone of our use case demos is we're understanding that pain point for them. It's like, all right, how do we fit this in to make this work best for them and guide them on the use cases that we already know of them and we've been solving for years as far as automation, but taking it to that next step as far as AI. So with that, if we embed it in our lives, we're looking at it to be able to understand those pain points, those gotchas, be familiar with basically our future assistants that we're all going to utilize. Because I think Song, you were saying this more as well. It's is that AI is not going to replace our jobs. It's not going to do anything like that. But what it is going to greatly shift our roles. And so we need to embed it now and understand it.
I've got a second parter to that question, Terrence, because Cisco's a large organization. You ran big teams. How are you enabling that shift within your team? So, and we'll go to Chris and Song too. Like the first part of the question, plus how are we skilling up on that with your process? Do you have any like tricks I could use?
Yeah. There's a number of ways. I mean, one, you know, Cisco's a large company, so we're doing this on a grand scale for go-to-market right now, from leaders to ICs to all teams combined. We're going through those trainings as we speak. But more of the grassroots level, just from you know, our teams, we're we speak on it as through I have what we call SE spotlights on our team calls. And during our weekly team calls, we have one SE spotlighted for maybe something they built or some demo they've done or you know something they ran across. A big portion of that in topics now has been AI. So in those SE spotlights, how are you utilizing AI within you know your role administratively, but also how are you doing it with our customers and what are you getting back? You know, this is a number of ways I can go for an hour on ways that we're doing it.
I
But
think
that's
that
one of
use
them.
case is perfect. Like if you're listening and you're thinking, how do I get my team to get on board with this thing? One thing you can do during your team meetings is to say, hey, I'm going to spotlight how you used AI this week.
Yep.
That's really smart. Song, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the first part of the question, I think we're still very early innings with AI and tools. I think everyone kind of jumped on a few bandwagons. I think if you look at um, core to, I mean, the context of like demos, it's always around great discovery. How do you help differentiate what it is you're trying to position right in front of the customer? And if you can use tools to help you do that, like for instance, one of my biggest pet peeves ever was SEs showing up without having done any type of research or done kind of the basics in terms of trying to understand the customer or the audience or doing prep, right? There's no excuse for that anymore. Because I mean, it's one thing, hey, I'm just booked back to back. I just didn't have a window. But like with all these tools at your disposal, there's no real reason you can't have that intellectual curiosity to like seek to understand. Like I always tell the teams, like, how does this customer make money? Can you explain that, right? And like how do you then capture that in terms of what you're about to share, right? And what you're about to talk about. So for me, tools are an enabler for kind of the basics around, again, just doing great prep and discovery, but then also being able to differentiate. From an enablement perspective, like we have a weekly cadence for the SE team. I think it does kind of ebb and flow in terms of now it's way more structured with like much longer topics and we'll kind of intermix them with smaller ones. But I love what Taryn said, right? Like being able to spotlight and kind of be prescriptive about like what are some great examples and like have the team share. That works out really well. But like we've been, you know, maybe trying to stick with more the old school way of, hey, let's just do a regular cadence and see what sticks. And then also, you know, dive deeper into some of the areas where there is, you know, kind of a identified need, right, to build up that competency across the team.
Yeah, I love what Terrence said about Yes, doing the spotlight. We do that here at Outreach, both with our product because it's changing so rapidly with the insertion of AI into various areas of the product that we need to keep up with that. So weekly, we have a what's changed in our product with AI. And I really like to maybe start to use or, steal with pride, Terrence, the spotlight of how you're personally using AI in your everyday. I think, it was mentioned on the panel before us, right at the end, using ChatGPT or some sort of AI to be able to construct how that specific vertical or customer has a language. We're not big enough to have an SME in every vertical here. So we need to be able to use the terminology that resonates very successfully in each of the verticals that we go into. And so, like, what's the metrics should we be asking for? How do the customers, song put it, how do they make money? We need to come in with a point of view. And ChatGPT or any type of AI allows us to accelerate that point of view so we can come in as advisors very quickly without having to do hours and hours and hours of studying. Just some simple prompts that you can put together to be able to be conversant in their language and in their business really adds to the credibility when you're at the table with the customer.
Nice. It seems to me like we're all doing a mix of like, let the team, let's explore, like you said, like you guys are changing all the time. The product, the market's changing all the time. The tech is changing quickly. Let's let our teams explore and show us what they're building and push for that culture change. That's pretty smart. We do the same thing here. We do a lot of those spotlights, et cetera, et cetera. I want to get back to some more of the hot takes side of things. There's a lot of trends in the market. What are some of the trends? We just talked about AI, how there is a bit of a bubble, how there's a bit of a bandwagon. But what are some of the trends people are talking about that you think are just overrated, that aren't really going to change the game? And there are maybe some marketing out there to try to take a hot stance. So Chris, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to probably sway off of the hot trends specific to solution consulting and maybe talk a little bit more about culture. We're talking about AI all the time now. But one of the things that I often hear is how to deal with burnout in our employees. Since we've shifted back to in-person for both meetings and in office, I've seen the expectations still of being able to do velocity meetings. If we could do those at home remote on Zoom, 4 to 5 meetings a day in front of customers. But now that we're on planes or we're traveling, that cuts down. But the expectation is still there to meet that same velocity that we had during pandemic levels. So what this really means is that our crew is getting burnt out by just working 50 and 60 hours at a time trying to keep up with that demand. So I think there's a lot of corporate well-being programs such as No Meeting Fridays or surveys. I feel a lot of those times they're good, but I feel like it's a simple checklist for companies to say, yeah, we care about burnout. I really would like to challenge everyone to really address the root of the problems: workload, expectations, culture, margins, etc. And being able to leverage AI to help us figure out how to create those, do that heavy lifting part that's, also can be lower value, such as, going through our discoveries, answering RFPs, being able to, figure out how to talk to a vertical, using that as a manual way to free up time. We can then reset the field expectations to keep us from burning out.
I 100% agree with you, Chris. That's something, yeah, we all seen, come out of COVID as well too. Is our engagement and roles change, So I've been in SC from back in the day. I'm on the road a lot, so I'm driving a lot, or I'm flying a lot. I'm here and there, and in between time, yeah, I'm prepping on a flight, for my next demo, and we're travel time here. But then we go remote. Now we're having demo after demo, meeting after meeting, 5 minutes in between. This wasn't the way that we operated before. And it's efficient, and our remote work is efficient and it's getting it done, but it doesn't beat that on-site, in-person, customer-facing interactions. that water cooler conversation, that trip back to the elevator after the meeting, you're talking to your champion, it's like, hey, it went well, or you should have did this, or now Tommy's going to look back at that conversation there that we're missing by strictly staying virtual and remote on a back-to-back. I think we need to get back out there in front of our customers, and that's a trend I think is just a little overrated as far as our roles.
Song, what do you think?
Yeah. Hey, I'm just gonna stand on my soapbox here, but like +1 to Chris and Terrence, like people buy from people, period. Right.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, first of all, Chris, like thank you for saying that around just like burnout, because you know what? It's very easy. And you all remember like when the pandemic started, like we were doing 12, 13-hour days just because we could. And everyone's like, woo, remote. And that was
We're
like
in
the
our
stupidest thing
pajamas.
ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, people buy from people. And I do think there's this like, oh my God, AI is coming. I had a plumber come into my house yesterday. It's like, oh, AI took my kid's job. Right. But I think for pre-sales as a whole, like people are going to continue to want to engage with human beings, especially when it comes to like these very important decisions to go and fix, again, very large business problems. So I think that's a little bit of a hot take, maybe in terms of, hey, is like AI ever going to take this job and this functional role? Not that I can tell in the foreseeable future, but hey, I've been wrong plenty of times in my life. But I think, the human element is something that we have probably kind of forgotten about. And I think, 2, 3 years of this pandemic and like people have forgotten that there's a huge premium and kind of value in kind of the social interactions, especially with people that, to Chris's point, we're trying to build as like champions or help and kind of inform if they're going to, or get information from as coaches. And like, how do we build up these kind of engagements and, kind of the confidence in the relationships? So I think for me, it's like definitely, hey, let's not overlook the fact that we will probably be in very viable roles for a very long time. And again, AI is an enabler for that. So I think people, number one, shouldn't be afraid and find ways to be more productive and efficient, but like really root on the fact that this is a very human to human interaction, right? And like we can again elevate ourselves to be those like experts and hopefully trusted advisors, trusted partners, whatever like second word you want to use there, but building up that relationship is something that has carried a lot of successful pre-sales professionals throughout their career.
So I'll wrap this up with just one last question, but I can't help but ask around the in-person shifting we're making, because I think you're right. I think the three of you are 100% correct. We make a much bigger impact. It's important, but you can't do 5 demos in a day if you're traveling to Chicago and you're on a connecting flight. How do you show the value between the two to help move your business in that direction? Like how do you convince either it's your upper leadership or your team that taking that train or that flight is actually more important than doing it virtually? So what are some of your tactics, Chris? I know that you believe in it and you don't want to burn your team out. How do you get them on the road?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a fact that the team doesn't want to travel. I think they do. It's not for the lack of that they don't. I think they were just skittish just a few years ago to get on a plane and do this. And I'll even be the first to raise my hand. I even was skittish at first to like, travel, from places, and was it even allowed from the corporate standpoint? But I think we're pretty much past that. I firmly believe my SCs want to get in front of people. They have a knack for presenting. They don't want to be stuck in a 2D world. They love getting out. They're very open people. They love the technology, and they want to be able to get out in front of the people to present. Leadership does not have a problem with this. What we need to make sure is that we're keeping in check the sales expectations of, oh, well, before you guys were able to do X amount of demos per week, but now that's decreased because, as you said, we can't do a prep for a demo when we're doing a connecting flight through Chicago. So I think it's just making sure that we're holding our leadership in check to set those expectations, saying that these are much more of a valuable interaction in person than we would be by having just more of a velocity approach.
100%. One thing that we're trying to do with our team to quantify this, but also prove that it works, is utilize it in a way of calling it a workshop and having a workshop with the customer on site. So, this is a way that we're getting our champions and different departments and, business decision makers in one room. We get them in that room. We have a presentation. We go from high to low, as far as, company where we're speaking on it, where they are, but also leaving it open and in this almost classroom setting, and where it's a more fluid conversation that, I'm speaking to you, but I'm also asking questions. And then I point out specific departments and, specific people. We're getting connections now. We're getting better understandings. We're doing slight discovery in these workshops as well, too. And it moves things along. And then how do I prove that it moves things along? Is that now we're tracking that activity within Salesforce or wherever you're using, and tracking that activity that we did this workshop. Now let's see how fast this moves, how fast this deal moves now. They're interested, they're excited. We're doing it, a pilot came out of it. Now we got the pilot and success criteria. Now we're moving on to close. We're adding that speed to it as well too. But that's one way of justifying and ramping up the excitement of on sites.
I like that.
I think we just uncovered a trend because Jen shared that she started in her strat team workshops as well. So you heard it here first. They're now called workshops moving forward, and we know we're going to move the needle with workshops. Song, what about you?
Yeah, I will say this. The team was just remarking yesterday about how we had what we thought was some kind of naysayers, and so we thought champions were, a competitor. And then the minute you meet them in person, oh, it's like a 180, nicest person in the world. And now they're sharing all sorts of stuff. Hank kind of made a comment, I think, in the chat as well. But again, it's like you're in these remote meetings where you don't have the opportunity to have the one-off sidebar social interaction. And, oh, hey, by the way, like learn about their personal win, learn about this other thing that they're willing to share now. I think those things are kind of missed. So it's a really good reminder. Like I'm with Chris on this. Like, yeah, it took a while for people to kind of get out of the, oh man, is this even safe? Like, are we going to be okay? So now, okay, now we're kind of swinging back in, but it's also taking time to readjust to like this human to human kind of in-person way of doing it. And I think there's a much smarter way to do that as well. So it's definitely something that we value here, and it doesn't really take much justification or warranting. I will say that the last point I'll make is just, and you use the proof points. Hey, remember that deal we had, so-and-so meet with so-and-so. And like, that was kind of a pivotal point in kind of the trajectory of that opportunity or neutralizing something or, building a champion. And hey, this is like the things that you just have to remember and provide those like friendly reminders, right, to, leadership and to the account teams on like, why there's value in doing this.
Love it. Thank you guys so much for sharing your insights. We're doing workshops moving forward. We've got the spotlights on our team calls. Chris has got his hot takes, which I'm going to steal from the chat. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.